All right, I think we're live. Push one in the chat if you can hear me. We'll give people a couple minutes to stroll in if they can. If they can hear me or not. All right, got a confirmation. Thank you for the confirmation. Welcome back to the Black Brain Trust. This is episode 864, Black Politics. Please hit the like button as you come in, share the video if possible, and hit that notification bell so you get all the updates from the Black Brain Trust. There's a docket in the description beneath the video for you to follow along with from reference. If you want to join the panel, there'll be a link in the chat pinned to the top. Let me know you can see my screen. We'll get straight into it. All right, got a confirmation that the screen can be seen. First item on the docket to cover is breaking news. Governor Ron DeSantis ends his 2024 campaign. Now, we have been talking about this all week, that after Iowa, things are going to shake out. And based on the numbers, okay, based on the numbers, Nikki Haley was supposed to be the second runner up to Trump. And it turns out that Ron DeSantis was the second place finisher. That being said, Nikki Haley is still in the race in New Hampshire. But DeSantis drops out in New Hampshire himself. And so I think what happened here is that the math was not mathing. It didn't make a whole lot of sense to try to take down Trump when you're so many points behind and so many percentage points behind as well. How exactly did DeSantis think he was going to get to number one with such a wide gap? I don't know. Money, I think money was a big issue for him. There was no way he was going to be able to last from now until July. And New Hampshire is just the canary in the coal mine that DeSantis was not able to maintain his position at all. Not against Trump, maybe against Nikki Haley, but not against Trump. And so he has no other choice but to drop out, especially after Tim Scott came out and endorsed him. And so he has no viability at this point. He has no cabinet position at this point. He has no other place else to go other than go back to Florida. And even back in Florida, I think he might be dead meat for his next gubernatorial race. I think he's pretty much done. And there's a possibility he could be done with politics after this. I don't see him going anywhere else other than the governor's mansion. And so that being said, you know, his anti-Trump campaign, you know, he's so much different than Trump, but, you know, he was just a Trump acolyte. That doesn't work on a national scale. He just isn't that guy. Now, Nikki Haley would be interesting. It'd be interesting to see what happens when she goes down to South Carolina. I think she should clean up well in South Carolina, but I don't know. If she can't win South Carolina, I think her race is done. I think that's pretty much a wrap at that point. And who knows? I don't think that Trump is going to choose. I mean, obviously, he's not going to choose any of these guys to be his VP. I think that VP pick is somewhere outside of the race right now. And Trump is playing the long game. These guys are playing the short game. They thought that they can, beat each other over the head to get to that VP pick. Never going to happen. Trump has no interest in bringing on DeSantis. Why bring him on? He's a mime, if anything else. Trump waves, he waves. That sort of position is what DeSantis was really vying for. This sort of shadow Trump. And why would anybody want to have two Trumps on a ticket? What's the point of that? DeSantis really never brought anything to the table. If you really think about it long term, he just was not that guy. He's not even a good governor for that matter. Okay. He's not even a good governor, let alone a presidential candidate. And so it was bound to happen that he was going to drop out. It was bound to happen that he just was not presidential material, not White House material at all. But I'd be interested in knowing what other people think, primarily because the math was on the board the whole entire time that DeSantis had no pathway to victory. Okay. Now there was a lot of people like, oh man, DeSantis was on his anti-wokeness and he was getting rid of DEI and all that stuff and affirmative action. And he was, all these attacks and stuff. And don't forget, there was a racial terrorist attack under his watch. All because of him. You could tie back that level of violence due to his rhetoric as a governor. He was never going to get the black vote. He was never going to be able to advance past the governor's mansion. He was never going to be able to be a VP. He was never going to be presidential material. This guy was, has set himself up for failure because he bought into that MAGA campaign and movement, and it didn't work out for him. Okay. I'm joined by my co-host and panelist, Jay Shine and the Going 11. What's going on, bro?
Good evening, gentlemen.
Good evening, Mike. Good evening.
What up, Nagon?
Hey, what's going on, Jay? Brother Jay.
My hero. What's up, brother?
Yeah. Hey, man, we're just sitting here, we're just getting ready to chop this up. Mike, you're breaking it down pretty nicely right now. I was just talking to a couple of my fraternity brothers. It was kind of funny. They talk about DeSantis stepping out, and a lot of guys are saying, hey, listen, man, as well, he knows if he's going to try to be governor in Florida again, he can't really buck the head of the party right now. Buck him too hard. That could be a problem. So, and DeSantis was never going to win. He definitely wasn't close enough to take Trump out, I don't believe, in the rest of the primary states. Definitely not. He didn't really have it. So I think it was definitely a better move for him to bow out right now instead of getting hammered even worse as he went on and lose support for his ultimate Republican base in Florida when he looks to run for governor. I think it is next year, I believe. But anyway, that's my take on it. I am not surprised at this whatsoever. No surprise at all.
Jay Sean?
I think the back deals have been made. You've seen Tim Scott fall in line behind Trump. Matt Gaetz and our brother Donaldson, they were on a collision course for governor of Florida, which puts them in direct competition with DeSantis. So I think DeSantis made his smart move to save his own political career, just focus on the governorship because he has two people angling from him. But I think the fix is in. Trump's going to be the nominee for the Republican Party. I think Donald's is going to be his VP pick. That takes him out of the contention for Florida governor, and it's going to be a steel cage match between Gaetz and DeSantis for Florida governorship.
This is interesting. I think he burned a lot of bridges in regards to trying to get to the White House. I think that he burned a lot of his credibility. I would have to think that Brian Kemp, Governor Kemp of Georgia, Youngkin in Virginia, Hot Wheels down in Texas, Abbott, I think they're all looking at this and they're like, we have no viability going forward. We have none. We have zero at this point. If DeSantis and Nikki Haley can't get past this guy and can't break 25%, I think that they know their days are numbered. I think the restructuring of the party will come after Trump bows out after 2024. Because let's say, everything goes kosher for him without the indictments and without any sort of court cases that are pending now hamper him. I think this is his last run. This is it. There's no way he's going to be able to run again after 2028. There's just no way at this point. And so the restructuring of the party starts now. And I think that Kemp, Liz Cheney, I think they're all looking at this. They're still fairly young. These are not like old people. These are not senior citizens. These are people who are either at 60 or below 60. And so
Right.
they're looking at this long term, like, they're waiting for this they can't wait for this to end.
Right.
A lot of people in this space last night were saying, oh, vote blue no matter who, those guys over there. No, we're telling you that it's not just Democrats that, don't want to have to deal with Trump. Republicans, GOP doesn't want to have to deal with Trump either. And so, they're banking on these cases panning out as well for them, because they don't want to have to restructure their party with this guy still around. They want to make sure this guy is put away in the can, like Oscar the Grouch. And so,
Mike, they had no choice, and this is a lesson that, when we hear a lot of Black men crying about how we can't do anything in politics and how we're not going to get this and we're not going to get that, and this is never going to work, it's a waste of time, right? Look at the Republican base. They are adamant, they stuck to their guns, they want Trump. Period. This is really not. This is a no-brainer for the political class. Like you said, they have to wait Trump out, because the political base, the right-wing base, the rank and file Republican from Iowa to New Hampshire to Oklahoma to Texas to Florida says this is what they want. They have not budged. They're not going to budge. They don't care about reason. They don't care about logic. They don't care about law. They don't care about nothing. All right. And this is a lesson that we can learn about being stuck on our position and not moving. Especially when you have sway in a political party.
And see, to add on to that, that's exactly what's going on. And the thing that I think people are very concerned about at this stage is looking at is the Trump base, is it broadening, or is it just more or less becoming more recalcitrant and hard in its mass? And is this broadening to the greater, more independent voters and we're seeing, in fact, some of that support now starting to wane and leave him a little bit. So he's not really expanding heavily on that base. It doesn't seem like he's doing a lot of expansion. So there's some issues with that as well. But let's see how a lot of this works. But the expansion that I believe Trump is going to need in which to win, it's not going to be there. A lot of these Republicans are kind of seeing that. There is a quiet, and I'm going to say there's somewhat of a quiet internal fight in the party, almost a bit of a civil war there right now. They're not spilling over nastily, but there are a lot of detractors inside of the party right now who some are not going to run again, some who are saying we got to reshape the party. That's going on currently as we speak. So re-annealing the party right now and bringing it back into a slightly different basis is definitely, changing its basis is going to change. It's coming.
But look, he only has one more, term. So that's what they settled on. What's funny to go is while this is happening, I just watched last week and I watched Napoleon, right? And there was always people who wanted Napoleon out of power. amongst the powers that be. But guess what Napoleon had that they didn't have? He had the loyalty to the army.
Yep.
I mean, there is divisions in the Republican Party. There is donors who went away from Trump, billionaires who went away from Trump. It didn't matter. He has the army.
Well, the thing here is why a lot of donors shied away from Trump is because those indictments would mean that if they donate to his MAGA campaign, they could be looking at terrorist financing.
Right.
That's a serious allegation. They don't want to be outed for that, So
right.
They're looking at this long term, like, hey, man, if this guy goes down, man, we might go down with him, and all our money's tied in with this, and terrorist financing is a real thing. They look at these sort of things in Washington, and so
right.
I think that Trump doesn't need a whole lot of money to run, but I think he needs a whole lot of money to defend himself, to keep himself afloat, because lawyers cost money, especially in this case. And I don't think that, a lot of lawyers are going to go do this pro bono, because if he goes down, their careers are pretty much null and void too. And so this has to work out for him 150%. He can't actually, find an, I don't think he's going to be able to stand this long term. This is going to be looming over his head, even if he was to win the, win the seat. So, let me go to the chat room. Michael Merriweather says, this paves the way for Trump once DeSantis puts his endorsement behind him. This doesn't matter, because DeSantis was never that guy. Okay, he was never that guy. And what did DeSantis get? Eight delegates? He was never. DeSantis is not. The firebrand that that will galvanize Trump. That doesn't matter. DeSantis doesn't have any choices at all in terms of endorsing Trump. He just has to get behind Trump. He's a Trump acolyte. So Michael Merriweather says again, they'll hop on board. Biden doesn't stand a chance, brothers. This isn't new. It happened in '64 when the base nominated Goldwater. The rhinos didn't want him either. But Trump is the rhino. Trump is the rhino. Probably a wino too.
Actually, you know what, Mike? I'm sorry. Go ahead, Nicole.
No. So a lot of these guys, they don't kind of understand the politics that's actually going on here. And if you look at where there's a lot of issues inside of the party, you are looking at party Republican conservatives that are not behind Trump, because he is not a conservative. He never was a conservative. I mean, he actually changed his registration again from Democrat to Republican. And I looked it up in 2012. That was his last change. He went from an independent. He was a Democrat before. Then he said he was an independent. Then he became a Republican in 2012. That was his last change of registration. That's what this guy really is. He changes all over, but that's what this guy really is. What they're running on is something different, and it's not really the inside of conservative Republican politics, though he's playing that side of the fence right now. He is not the conservative. He is the rhino. Mm-hmm. He is the rhino. Right. That's the issue here. And a lot of the hardcore conservatives inside of the party right now have a lot of issues with them. And we'll see how a lot of this begins to shake out. But the key here, you guys have to understand, is you got to expand the electorate. A lot of guys, he cannot win with just MAGA. He can't do it. And they don't seem to understand, the political base and broadening the base in which to get over that 50 or 51% that you're going to have to take from Biden significantly. Very, 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 very serious issue. So, right. Things actually look bleak for him, but folks are not saying that because of the media. Okay, kind of how the media is actually saying that, and that's really what's going on. That's what people are really not saying, especially when you look at his showing that we just recently saw in the Iowa caucuses. So I'm gonna leave it there. You guys take it.
Yeah, I was going to say real quick. I wouldn't even call him a rhino. He's not a Republican. He's something different. I think we got to take Trump out of the normal left-right paradigm. We haven't seen anything like this really since the years before the Civil War. This is deeper than rap. This is not about policy for his voters. This is not about reality for his voters. It's not about love of country for their voters. This is about white Wakanda, and he's their champion. You know, and they're not budging. They don't care about the indictments. They don't care about him being on audio. And you know what? We should have seen this coming when they voted for him, when he said, grab about a what? You know, I mean, these are people who are supposed to be morally superior than Democrats. You know what I mean? They didn't care. They saw what he was standing on when he was at that desk, when he pushed back against the first Black president, and it hit a different tone. It was a different nerve that was hit. It had nothing to do with regular politics. It had nothing to do with taxes. It had nothing to do with oil policy or war policy. It was deeper than that. And this is what we've been dealing with for the last, 8+ years, 10+ years. Matter of fact, we can go back before that. We can start talking about this. This really started in Obama's first term. You know what I mean? And that's what we're dealing with. So when you look at these people coming out of the post, you know, interviews, out of the polls, and you see their face, they don't care. This is about something completely different. And we're not really, you know, not us here on the panel. I'm talking about we as a country. I don't think we really understand what's happening right now, you know, with this guy and his supporters. And then the Republican Party is folding because they don't really have anything else. They don't have a voters base to they can have the donors to go against them. They can have candidates to go against them. They can even have the political class go against them in the party. Party leaders go against them, but they don't have the mob. And I meant to say that earlier. I didn't mean to say army. He has the mob.
Yeah, but
he has his own Trump flag. You know, he has his own Trump flag. He's not waving a GOP flag. He's waving a Trump flag. This is something different.
Yeah,
you know, and it's just happening
because
in that
MAGA, because MAGA is a party within itself.
Right,
that's
it's
exactly
his own movement. Right.
He's got to. You're right, Mike. You hit it right in the head. He's got to expand it. And to you Negroes who are out there, who are the supporters, your numbers are not going to really mean that much
at all,
because they're not many of you.
At all,
contrary to popular belief, you're not. You, Michael Merriweather, and the rest of you, you're not going to be a big enough mass to change the outcome.
Especially when most of y'all live in blue states.
And to Michael Merriweather's comment, Mike, it's wishful thinking. Trump will never be indicted. He's already been indicted. What are you talking about? What do you think the mugshot was about?
Yeah.
That's what the mugshot was about.
You got 91 charges, yeah.
I don't get it. What's going on, Lou? What it do, man? What's your take on this?
Man, what's up, Mike? Gone, Jay.
What's up, Lou? What it do? What it do, Lou? What it do?
Man, chilling, man. Glad to be up here chopping it up with y'all, man. Glad you went live, Michael. What's up, Jay Shine? What's up, family? Man, bro, Desantis is just he. What can I say about this dude, bro? Just a total embarrassment. Didn't win one county in Iowa. Spent $50 million. Trump didn't even show up. Like, you spent $50 million for what? You a loser. You think you barely won Florida. That's what's so funny, Mike. When people say, make that little joke, vote harder, vote harder. No, literally in Florida, you should have voted harder. Literally, he won by like 20,000 votes. You literally should have voted harder. That's the fact. And now you know you living in on the verge of a failed state in Florida. So, you know, congrats. But the thing too, man, what y'all were saying, I wanted to touch on about, you were talking about the MAGA within the Republican Party. That is 100% fact. They are here. The MAGA, not only they know Trump is a crook. They see what Trump did to get money, and they're doing the exact same way. Just like you see these black conservatives on YouTube, they are getting money. They're lying. They're spreading up bullshit, making up shit to like just garner views and likes. And that's what the problem with the media is right now. The media is not looking at Trump holistically in reality. They're just putting them out there to just keep getting views and people to watch and talk about. Trump is almost losing his mind. Trump said the other day that he got Nikki Haley and Nancy Pelosi mixed up, right? He said Nikki Haley was the one who the Capitol Police, all that January 6th. He said Nikki Haley's name 9 times.
He sure did.
Not just like he never corrected himself. Like, oh, I meant Nancy Pelosi. No, throughout that, you know, his ass licking fans not gonna. I'm so sorry. I'm sorry, Mike. I ain't mean to. I'm sorry. My bad. Shout out to the brain. My bad. I ain't mean to get
Nah,
too
go ahead,
crazy.
man. Go ahead, man. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Animated, you know what I'm saying? I'm sorry, but his cult following not gonna say anything to actually challenge him to be like, man, maybe Trump is kind of going a little crazy. The dude is he the same age as Joe Biden was in 2020. But anyway, so
great point. Great point.
yeah,
Continue.
so they keep talking about Joe, and that's nothing. They say Joe Biden is senile, old. He don't know what's going on. But on the other hand, he this criminal mastermind that's setting up everything. Anyway, so my whole point is sitting at home is that the MAGA within the Republican Party, this is bar none the most ineffective Congress, bar none. They've had 794 votes of no, and they've only passed 27 bills. Could you imagine, Mike, to go on Jay Shot? Could y'all imagine if this Congress was in office during COVID?
Yeah, I gotta push back for a second.
They don't legislate.
They're not the most. They're the most ineffective Congress. I mean, excuse me, the most unproductive Congress, but they're a very effective Congress for the purposes of what you're seeing on the Trump or the GOP.
Oh, okay,
right
yeah,
now.
I see what you mean. You're right. Yeah, you're right.
They're playing. They've pushed this culture war shit into made it damn near normal. What's going on in the House right now is absolutely ridiculous. When you look at the House historically and what it's supposed to do for the people, what it's supposed to do legislatively it's ridiculous what's happening in the House right now. But it's effective as far as feeding talk or right-wing talk radio, right-wing media, right-wing thoughts. You know what I mean? They bring that crap onto the floor and push bills dealing with his conspiracies and all. You know what I mean? So it's very effective as far as motivating these people. You know what I mean? But it's very it's unproductive.
Yeah, that you're right. Yeah, that's a better word.
Well,
you're right.
Well, gentlemen, you have to understand this is nothing new. They were doing that certainly during the Obama when Obama lost the House, and then they came in, and then they had
the Tea Party,
and then they had their
Tea Party,
the Tea Party and the Congress of No, where they were where a lot of executive orders had to be used by the president, but of course, much of his legislation with respect to infrastructure and so forth was shut down because you had to have Congress approve of a lot, and they do not legislate. They don't legislate. So that's essentially what you're looking at. None of this is new. Trump didn't create this. He just helped to hype it. But all this was there previously. All this was there. And that was, I mean, there are people here trying to say Obama is still president, that he's still running things behind the scenes. I mean, that's what these people are running on currently right now. Still saying Obama is still president. That's what people are saying. Oh, that
talking crazy.
Yeah.
I mean,
it's conspiracy theory. It's conspiracy theory.
That's actually what you're hearing from these people. So, and they sound way, way, way out there. And then this man is talking about, fascism, saying, presidents should be immune. So if by your reasoning right now, if you're saying that presidents should be immune from any kind of prosecution, Trump, that means that basically Biden can right now roll down into Mar-a-Lago, grab you, tear you out the frame, and say it's good, that he has the right to do that. All right. Are you saying that he has the legal right to do that as well? Is that what you're saying? So what you're asking for, this president can come in here right now and do you right now. That's what you're saying. I mean, pure insanity, but this is the kind of thing that these guys are pushing on this side to kind of move, their debate forward. And I don't even think they even realize what they're even doing or what they're even saying. That's how way out there they are. And that's still a question that these guys are not seeing. Just like you see Michael Merriweather here. Why is Obama still living in the D.C. area? I mean, seriously, this is what these guys are pushing, and this is what they believe. So you got to look at really the thought process that's going on here with these guys right now that are really kind of way out there. Anyway, go ahead.
Let me say this real quick. He said, "What are you talking about, Lou?" Okay, let's do some math. Okay, 4 years ago, Joe Biden was 77. Today, he's 81. My point is, Trump will be 77 also, like Joe Biden was in 2020. And I'm saying I don't see the people talking about Trump's cognitive decline as they were talking about Biden. Like Trump is actually like Trump's life is getting actually like torn upside down. Like his family not really talk, his wife's not really, they're not like obviously
She
showing good
doesn't.
faith with each other.
She doesn't even call him Donald. She calls him the Donald.
Yeah, you know what I'm
So
saying? Like
in Lou, he held the Bible upside down.
Yeah, when he was walking, yeah, sure did.
No
that's what
one
I'm
talks
saying.
about
It's
the
like,
cognitive abilities there. So
yeah,
Well, Nikki
exactly.
Haley's actually question. Nikki Haley's actually questioning that right now. This is the last quarter. She's finally bringing it up, but she brought that up and saying, when you brought up the point of of, of actually Trump calling Nikki Haley Nancy Pelosi in the whole game. It's that's some cognitive issues right there, and Nikki Haley's now going to try to go on the attack on him on his cognitive abilities as well.
well, think
Yeah,
about Henry Kissinger was 100 years old and had better cognitive abilities than Trump did. He could run foreign policy at 100 years old. I mean,
he said
Trump
I was.
couldn't even go ahead.
So he said, I'm sorry, Mike. Continue, brother. I'm sorry.
No, no, I was just saying that this idea that Biden's age is somehow questionable. Well, Henry Kissinger was 100 years old. He's still running foreign policy. He's still showing up to Davos, still showing up in Beijing. Like I don't buy this whole age thing. Trump is some years younger than Biden, and the guy was holding the Bible upside down
Only 4 years
and doing
younger.
Dutch.
And yeah, like I said, how is Biden? So and they gotta pick, Mike. Is Biden senile or is he this mastermind crime syndicate leader? Which is it?
Yeah.
Like,
Remember 4 years ago, they were saying, oh, Biden's going to come take your guns. African American gun ownership has increased by 55% across the country.
no, that's a fact.
What happened? What happened?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. What happened? And it's like, and then I keep telling them, like, bring the proof. Where if the Republicans don't have, the Republicans came out and said they have basically zero proof of Joe Biden taking any money and using Hunter as like some type of money man, point man for getting money. There's all that's just conspiracy theory. However, we do have actual evidence that Trump was taking money from foreign governments, taking them to their hotels and doing all this other shit. You know what I mean? Like when they come through, they make sure they go to the Trump hotel. Yeah. Trump didn't take a salary. Hell, the money he spent and earned as a president far exceeds $400,000. I mean, he made
Yeah.
millions as a president.
Yeah.
And aren't you supposed to, like, if you're president, you're supposed to like sign away businesses. So like you're supposed to install like a trustee if you have
Well,
a
because
business
his
as a.
businesses were in China. That's where the conflict of interest really was. All of his Trump collection and Ivanka's collection, all that stuff was made in China and produced in China, and I think some of the patents were in China. And so I know Ivanka had to give up those things before actually entering the White House. You have to get a security clearance to be all up in there, and I don't think um, you know Trump. I think Trump gave it to his son Donald or something like that, Donald Jr. And so I don't know. I don't know how far that goes down a rabbit hole, but I think that's what the case in New York is about, with Letitia James. So
Yeah, and yeah, and that Second Amendment right. If you believe that they wrote the Constitution to empower the citizens to go after the government after they just did a revolution against Britain. I mean, I got a bridge to stay united with him, bro. So y'all go ahead. I'm passing Mike.
well, Mike and Merriweather says, well, if that's the case, Mike, Kissinger definitely has better cognitive ability than Biden. Well, which one is it? Is it Biden taking all your guns and Biden is screwing up the economy and doing all these mastermind things like Lou said earlier? or is it his cognitive abilities? Which one is it? He can't
Yeah,
both be a
I'm
mastermind and be out of his mind all at the same time. It doesn't work like that.
it's
They're
ludicrous.
clueless. Go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, you good. I'm just saying, yeah, it don't make any sense. But you know, and he's saying, oh, he's just a puppet and all this stuff. All right, man. Well, I know Hunter Biden is destroying, making the Republicans look pretty stupid. So I mean,
Yeah.
hell, like I said, all the Republicans doing, like with DeSantis, I don't even know what his plan is. Like, I have zero idea what DeSantis is doing. Like, this is
DeSantis is
insane.
hoping and DeSantis is hoping for a cabinet position because he has to bank on the idea that if he fixes the Constitution in Florida to run for a third term, that he can actually secure that third term. I don't see him winning the third term at this point. I think him being a failed dropout presidential candidate is going to have a blemish on his track record. All of this anti-DEI, anti-woke agenda that he's been pushing this whole entire time led to a domestic terrorist attack under his watch, and there's no accountability there. I don't think that that's going to work out well for him.
And I don't think, like I said, a lot of people in America understand what's really happening. But DeSantis' politics was always targeting and trying to cater to that racist element, not just in the state, but countrywide. That's why he ran in the first place. He thought, he had a shot because he was showing his white nationalist bona fides. The problem is now he's unleashed that in his own state. The real white nationalists like Matt Gaetz and want that spot now. These guys are not only just going to run for governorship. The Matt Gaetzes of Florida are going to want seats in the legislature in Florida and in the state house and in the house. So that's what's coming behind all of this. Because one thing I will say the Republicans are doing right from a political standpoint is that they're following their base. They're following their base to a T. They try to get around their base. Most parties do it all the time. They try to lead their base and tell their base what they want. And, there's some type of compromise, but the base is adamant they want white nationalism right now. And they don't care about what's going on with Trump. They don't care about, they don't want to hear no moral arguments. You got white evangelicals out here talking about, well, Jesus uses anybody. You know what I'm saying? They don't care. All right, this is about something else. And I don't really think mentally we are prepared for what's happening politically in our country.
This is interesting.
And the reason I say that, I'm gonna just say this one last part. The reason I say that, Mike, is because that's why you got Nikki Haley running around here talking about racism doesn't exist. Who is she trying to cater to? See, this is right in our face. And then no one also wants to talk about the crowd clapping at that nonsense. You see what I'm saying? Yeah. This is what we're dealing with. Like my man, Martin Luther King said, this is what we're faced with.
Yeah.
So we keep playing, culture wars or, which daddy I like more, or we can get serious about politics.
Or is politics going to get serious about you?
Exactly.
Exactly. When that fascism starts stomping in your ass.
I think we're already here, Lou. I think we're already here. I think what happened in Buffalo, what happened in Charleston, what happened in Florida recently, and within these terrorist threats at HBCUs, I think that is clear that we're already here.
And they're not, and they're worried about certain types of things because look at the voting rights laws that these people are rolling back and repealing. You have to look at that. Why are they trying to stop you from voting? And this was specifically designed to hit you in Pennsylvania and Wisconsin and Michigan and these key battleground states where Georgia and so forth. This is where numbers were very effective, and we're going to play very heavily in the in those battleground states certainly, and that's where they want your vote cut down. So I mean, these people are not playing. They're very serious about what they're doing. So
here's that tough guy stuff again. I'm sorry. Here we got tough guy stuff. I'm not worried about racist rhetoric. This ain't about rhetoric. This is about power. when they're all over the country trying to erase your history and are doing it, passing laws, doing it. You know what I mean? This is not about rhetoric no more. People are dying. People are getting hurt. People are being disenfranchised. People are being moved around. All right. Because this is a two-pronged system. You can blame the Democrats for the situation with immigrants, but who's sending them people to the Black communities? It's coming from the red states. And you got DeSantis, who's not even a border state, involved in this. You know what I mean? This is deliberate. This is an attack on your group, your people. When they talk about votes being stolen and votes being stolen from Trump, they're talking about Black districts. You know what I mean? In Pennsylvania, in Michigan, and Georgia, and you know they're coming at you. This is not a game.
Yeah,
this is not something you can just talk about on the internet and feel like, all right, I put my hands on my hip. I'm a tough guy. I don't care what they say. Racism don't bother me. Ding. This doesn't work that way. It doesn't work that way. You got the shiny tooth and shit. Racism don't bother me. You know, come on, man. This is America, and it has deep history, and this history is real, and it's happening in your time.
And got his foot up on a box like Captain Morgan, man.
Yeah. Like it's all good. Everything.
He said he don't believe me. He said he don't believe me. But I guess the video we saw of Nikki Haley. Hold on, Luke. I guess the video we seen of Nikki Haley saying that racism doesn't exist and people clapping, that was a fake video. That was fake news.
Yeah, we just made that up. We just made that up.
I've been saying this for years in the space. New Hampshire is the Mississippi of the North. And a lot of these guys who claim to be conservative and think they're conservative don't really want to live up there. There's a reason why New Hampshire has less than 1% of its population actually be identified as African-American or Black. Most of Black people live in the city of Boston and 6 states in New England. Okay, there's 6 states in New England, massive sizes. The 99% of Black people in New England live in Boston proper. Okay, they know the history behind all these other states. They know what the ramifications are trying to live in those states. All this manosphere conservatism is exactly that. It's manosphere conservatism. There's no real grounding to what they're talking about. There's no real way to manifest anything that they're talking about from a historic standpoint. There's no way you're going to sit up here and say that one of the most prolific philosophers and speakers of our time, W.E.B. Du Bois, came out of Boston. Okay. This idea that Biden should leave office. Okay, let me ask Michael Merriweather this: do you support the 17-point agenda by Dr. T.S. Johnson and co? Oh, New Hampshire has a lot of progressives. Yeah, right. That's on college campuses. Go outside of Merrimack, and I can tell you right now, it ain't happening. Okay, that ain't happening.
And they trying to stop college kids from voting.
They want to stop Black people from coming up there. They're actually blaming Black people in Massachusetts for bringing crime to New Hampshire, man. This is the same move that the former governor of Maine tried to pull, that, all these Black men are coming up there banging white women. Remember that a few years ago?
Yeah. And who did that shootout in New Hampshire recently? That was a Caucasian.
Yeah.
That was
in Maine. That was in Maine.
Oh, Maine, excuse me, Maine.
At the bowling alley. Yeah, the bowling alley.
Yeah, they were trying to say before his identity was revealed, they were blaming it on all the immigrants. They were blaming it on Black people. And then kind of found out it was a white boy.
Hey, my man said, you got to watch the whole spill, not just the clip. So he's saying that there was some strong context for Nikki Haley's comments, even though we've all watched the full video and we watched the town hall follow-up on CNN where she doubled down, and also her radio interview. But but this guy doesn't know we actually do our homework. You know what I mean? But going back to the other problem, my man, you're right. I'm gonna agree with you, Michael, Mr. Merriweather. This is not the 60s. You're right. It's not the 60s. In 2023, we have, I think, 20 million more guns in the country than we had in the 60s. So you're right. It's not the 60s. You absolutely right. I would agree with you on that point, sir. We also have right-wing radio that we didn't have, and the right-wing media that didn't exist in the 60s neither. You know, we didn't have a polarized, two different universe political situation that didn't exist in the 60s either. So there's a lot of things that you're right, did not exist in the 60s. And we're in a more dangerous situation now than you ever know. You don't think so because you feel comfortable in your comfortable chair behind that computer. You know what I mean? But you're not looking at what's happening to the country at large and what's being postured to happen to the country at large. These people are basically saying if they don't get their way, they're going to take it by force. That's what they're saying. That's what they're saying on their right-wing channels. That's what they're saying in their chat rooms. And this is their guy. And he wants to undo regular order, regular constitutional order in America. And you think that's not going to affect you? Okay.
Yeah. Let me read this Reuters piece anyways. I mean, we kind of know what the deal is, but let me just read it anyways. This is from Reuters. Presidential contender Ron DeSantis, who was once viewed as Republicans' best shot at moving past Donald Trump, dropped out of the primary race on Sunday, a relatively early exit that underlines the iron grip the former president retains on the party. DeSantis, 45, endorsed Trump in a video posted on X social media site. DeSantis has been widely seen as a top contender for the 2024 Republican nomination and a natural heir to Trump due to his combative style and deeply conservative views. Early in 2023, he led several head-to-head polls against Trump. But the Florida governor's support has been declining for several months due to flawed campaign strategy, his seeming lack of ease with voters on the campaign trail, and Trump's so far unshakable hold on much of the party's base. The end of DeSantis' bid means that former U.S. Ambassador to the UN, Nikki Haley, is now the last Republican in the race with a shot, albeit a long one, of denying Trump the nomination. The winner of the Republican nominating contest will take on President Joe Biden, the likely Democratic nominee in the general election in November. More than 70% of Republicans have a favorable opinion of Trump, according to most opinion polls. That put DeSantis in a position where he had to appeal to voters that still admired Trump, as well as those who passionately disliked him. DeSantis failed on both counts. He never successfully articulated to most Trump supporters why he was a better option, while Republicans looking to ditch the former president split their votes among multiple candidates. Haley, in particular, has been emerged as the favorite among moderate Republicans as the field has consolidated. Where DeSantis differed from Trump on policy, it was almost always to stake out a more conservative position. He signed a 6-week abortion ban in Florida in April, which he eventually embraced on the campaign trail, even as it made some donors and moderate Republicans wary. DeSantis opposed additional U.S. military assistance to Ukraine and took a punitive action against the Walt Disney Company after the company spoke out against Florida legislation that limited discussion of gender and sexuality in classrooms. The Disney fight was one that pro-business critics within the party said DeSantis didn't need to wage. While many major donors threw their support behind DeSantis early on, they began to rebel as early as some. Robert Bigelow, who gave millions to the super PAC fundraising group back in DeSantis, told Reuters in August he was cutting off funding turned off by the governor's uncompromising position on abortion. DeSantis' troubles began before he ever entered the race. In March, when Trump was indicted in New York on charges he conspired to conceal hush money payments to a porn star, the former president received a significant bump in the polls as Republicans rallied around him. Many of them believe Trump's claims that law enforcement officials were targeting him to keep him out of the race. Several DeSantis allies say the governor waited too long to become a candidate, finally throwing his hat into the ring in May, over 6 months after Trump had done so. That left DeSantis open to blistering attacks by Trump, while the governor himself did little to defend himself, insisting he was not a candidate. When DeSantis did formally launch his White House run in May 2023, it was a glitch-filled disaster on Twitter, now known as X, and an auspicious start of for a campaign predicted on the governor's executive competence. The campaign then overhired, burning through cash at a rapid rate. DeSantis let go of some 38 staffers in July and ousted his campaign manager in August, sowing a narrative of internal chaos that proved hard to shake. He outsourced much of the traditional work of a campaign to an outside super PAC, which can accept donations of unlimited size but cannot coordinate with the campaign itself. The campaign and the PAC, known as Never Back Down, came to distrust one another. A series of back-to-back departures of senior staffers from the PAC in November and December created a sense of turmoil that furthered the narrative that the governor's campaign was mortally wounded. How many times have we said, Shine brought this up, Lou brought this up, we brought this up, that there's internal fighting within the party itself? We talked about this. He's burning through cash. Talked about this at the top of the hour. There was no way that that DeSantis was going to be able to go all the way to May, April, May, June on the budget that he has. There was just no way. You can't spend that much money to go just to lose. It just was not feasible, and it was inevitable that he was going to drop out. And so, I find it's interesting that there are a lot of people who believe that DeSantis was a good governor, or he is a good governor, or he was a good candidate, or he was a good candidate. I kind of question the legitimacy of a lot of manosphere people, Black manosphere people who want to get behind white candidates to try to advance their own agenda. I just don't. I have to question the legitimacy of it.
It's lunacy. It's absolute lunacy, and when we're talking politics, you got to go where your numbers at. And I brought this up before because there's somebody, mentioning something we covered already about the migrants going to Black areas. That is true.
Mm-hmm.
But what's funny about that argument that keeps being made, you have Republican governors sending those migrants to Black communities. All right. They're sending them there. Now, I just watched a spot on I forgot what news station, I think it was NBC, where they had the mayor of Missouri, a Black man, and a white mayor of Oklahoma City talking about this. And they was talking about the stuff that their other mayor colleagues are dealing with in other states. And the white mayor of Oklahoma said, we're not getting targeted. This conservative white man said, we're not being targeted like the other states are. So he admitted on national TV that Abbott is not sending migrants to Oklahoma City. He's sending them to Chicago. He's sending them to New York.
Yeah.
He's sending them to places where they know they're going to fall down on Black people. So the people you want to keep in power are literally attacking your community, and you're blaming the Democrats for it. All right. And then the second part of that, which makes no sense in this argument, is if they don't want the people in the country, why would they send them to places where they're considered sanctuary cities, where they're going to be kept in the country? You see what I'm saying? So if you really didn't want them in the country, you would send them somewhere where they wouldn't be accepted in society and been sent all over the rest of the country. Because if they settled in Chicago, that means they can move to Portland, they can move to Oklahoma, they can move to South Carolina. So your Republican governors are actually doing a disservice, but they're playing culture war politics. They're not really solving the problem. They're making it worse.
Yeah, Jay Sean. And then, like you said, too, I mean, these Republican states are the ones going to, that's when these immigrants are going, really. Because when I'm in the airport, man, I'm talking, I speak Spanish, so I'll be helping the people out. And I talk to them. And every time I talk to them, they going to Idaho. They're going to Dakota. They're going to Wyoming. I'm like, damn, where y'all going? I'm going to these red Republican states. I wonder why.
And Lou, what's crazy about the migrant situation, when they did that funny thing when they sent them to what's that rich place they go to on the East Coast?
Marcus Vineyard or something.
Marcus
like
Vineyard, right? Now Marcus Vineyard's not going to keep them. Marcus Vineyard got resources. Guess where all migrants went now? Most of those migrants are now in red states.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? Like this is the stupidity of it. So it's a show. Right. So my man just said in the chat room, I just said that. Yeah, they're sending them to sanctuary cities. So you're sending them to places where they're being welcome. That makes no sense. If you really didn't want them in the country as a white Republican governor, if you really didn't want them in the country, why would you send them somewhere where they're going to be settled? That makes no sense. Why would you send them somewhere where they're going to be settled in the country and then be dispersed throughout the rest of the country? Think about it. See, this is the glitch. This is that OCP, RoboCop glitch about to happen right now. All right. This is that glitch that happens when they can't go past that prime directive, where they can't go against their white zaddy. See, look, the bottom line is they're playing politics. They're the ones sending them all over the country. They paid for it, and they're sending them all over the country. Why in the hell are you then now going to blame Democrats and then act like you care about Black communities, but you never came online and fought for resources for Black communities? See, this is the hypocrisy and the idiocy of you dudes. And y'all come to the Black Brain Trust where you got grown-ups talking.
Couldn't have said it better myself, Jay Shine. I could not have said it better myself. But let's go through this next item on the docket from Fox News. Army sees decline in white recruits amid culture war attacks. Report. The Army has come under fire from conservative lawmakers over policies described as woke as it tries to recruit soldiers. Oh man, they put this behind a wall. I didn't even know that Fox News had a wall. Let me see if I can pull this article. Didn't even know.
You can use I think they got a try to use 12-foot the paywall remover. They got one like a paywall remover or whatever. I think that's the one I normally use when I'm trying to read some of these articles. Or I think they got another one called that one works called Spaywall, SPAY, wall. That's another one to get around that. Yeah, AO put it in there. Yeah, suit the AO. Yep, that's exactly it. Yeah, so if y'all want to ever read some of these like Wall Street journals and get some of these articles down, use that 12-foot to get rid of it. And if that one don't work, use Spaywall.
Yeah, let me try this now.
Yeah, I didn't know Fox had paywalls either. That's crazy. I guess there's some revenue somewhere.
Well, they got to make up, because of the voter lawsuit they lost.
Yeah, that Dominion lawsuit. Yeah.
Yeah,
they gotta get every
Dominion.
nickel. They gotta get every nickel and dime back.
A lot. Plus Tucker ripped them off. So
right.
yeah, let me read this. Let me know you can see my screen.
Yeah, we see it.
The Army has seen a decline in white recruits over the past decade, a part of the military branch's historic overall recruiting woes that have leadership concern, according to data reviewed by military.com. A total of 44,042 new Army recruits were categorized by the service as white in 2018. However, that number fell each year to a low of 25,000 in 2023, with a 6% dip from 2022 to 2023, the news outlet reported. During that same 5-year period, Black recruits rose from 20% to 24%. Hispanics increased from 17% to 24%. The drop in white oh man, what is this?
Boy, they got to get that money, dog. They hurting over there at Fox.
Yeah, they putting those commercials in there real quick.
Oh, they got to make up for that revenue, man.
Yeah, that's that those ad dollars.
Crazy.
Pay per click.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on with the website. It seems to have frozen up
Frozen.
the browser.
As wars continue to rage abroad and Iranian proxies target American forces in the Middle East, this could spell trouble for our military forces right here in America. As senior leaders warn that 2024 will see major structural changes for the Army, and recent reports say major cuts could even come for the branch's elite special forces. Which units could be headed for the chopping block? That's the question we asked this morning. Jim Hansen is the chief editor for the Middle East Forum and served in the U.S. Army Special Forces. He joins us now with his analysis. So, Jim, the Army is about to have its lowest number since 1940. Here's the graphic. It'll be a 452,000 soldier active force by the end of fiscal year 2023. Is this the number the Army wanted, or is this because they can't recruit? How did we get to this low number?
We got there because they can't find people who are capable of serving and want to serve. You know, Pete, when you and I joined the military, we proudly raised our hands to support and defend the
Hey, my apologies about this. I don't know what Fox News is doing on their website. And their website seems to be the only one that does this. The rest of the websites don't seem to do this, especially the more legitimate ones.
They've tagged your IP, Mike.
Yeah, I was trying to understand what they were saying. Like, so what was he about to say? Why?
Well, I can tell you what's happening.
Well, let me just try to straighten this out. Let me just straighten this out really quickly.
Okay. But yeah, dude in the chat talking about we won't say it to your face. So, bro, you exactly
Lou, don't entertain that. He's big mad right now over words. Let him be mad. I don't, because they're irrelevant. All right, and you got to keep in mind, some of these people already have their minds made up anyway, and they now arguing the points. I made clear points and asked questions they haven't even addressed yet. So don't worry about it. Their minds are made up. What we talk about really is for the playback. It's for people to come through and listen, and that open minds and objective thoughts, and really want to try to figure out what's going on.
And senior leaders warn that 2024 will see major structural changes for the Army. And recent reports say major cuts could even come for the branch's elite special forces. Which units could be headed for the chopping block? That's the question we asked this morning. Jim Hansen is the chief editor for the Middle East Forum and served in the U.S. Army Special Forces. He joins us now with his analysis. So, Jim, the Army is about to have its lowest number since 1940. Here's the graphic. It'll be a 452,000 soldier active force by the end of fiscal year 23. Is this the number the Army wanted, or is this because they can't recruit? How did we get to this low number?
We got there because they can't find people who are capable of serving and want to serve. You know, Pete, when you and I joined the military, we proudly raised our hands to support and defend the Constitution because we knew that America was the greatest and freest country in the history of the planet. The children growing up the past several generations have been taught that America is a racist, white supremacist, misogynist, transphobic place, nothing to be proud of. Why would you want to go ahead and potentially risk your life for something like that? They're used to being told the world owes you something. Show up, get your participation trophy, and the world will take care of you. That's just not how it is, and this is a result of that generation and the one following it not being ready to become part of our military service.
And, you know, the types of units they're cutting, Jim, it raises eyebrows. The Army Secretary, Christine Wormuth, I'm sure she's a warfighter, says the reduction will come from close combat forces and special operations as well. Is that where we should be cutting from?
Well, Pete, as I'm sure you're well aware, you know, the people in the rear with the gear are the ones killing most of the enemy. And I don't want to dog support troops. You know, we play that game inside the military, but you have to have the people at the pointy end of the spear, or you're not going to be something that first is a deterrent, and second, if called upon, can actually take the fight to the enemy. And they're looking at it now and saying, well, we can't get people willing to do that, or we don't want to, which is even scarier. And now they're just saying, we'll just find whoever we can and we'll put them in a room with a computer, you know, and they'll save the free world. That's just not how it works.
And Jim, I know you're in touch with a lot of guys still serving. I am as well. What's your sense of the morale, of the ethos of today's Army under the Biden administration?
It's sad. I think the one thing you could say is the people who are still willing to serve, who have that warrior spirit, are demoralized because they spend more time practicing their pronouns and doing pride parades than they do fighting and practicing for war. So I think we have to change the mentality, first of the country, that says the military and the United States are worthy things. And then second, change the mentality inside the military that you have to focus on war fighting, not on wokeness.
And Jim, you know this recruitment number that we're not making comes while standards are being lowered too across the board. So we're lowering standards to get people in, and we still can't recruit enough to fill the ranks. It does not bode well. Go ahead, last word.
No, you have to be able to uphold the standards. You can't lower them and say, well, maybe this will still be okay. That, again, is not conducive to having the fighting force we need in a world that's on fire.
Had a senior leader recently say, we're not changing the standards, we're just adapting them. Okay.
Right,
Sounds
down.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Jim, thank you very much. Happy New Year.
Good to be with you.
All right. Jay Sean, what's your thoughts on this? And then we'll go to Lou.
If that was true, then I guess what's wrong with the conservative children? Why are they not signing up? I mean, you have households. Fox News is the #1 news station in the country. Those families are not even listening to MSNBC or CNN or to liberal content. So fine, you're saying that because of liberal thought and democratic policies or whatever, these kids don't want to be a part of the military no more. Well, most of the country is red. Most of the states are red. They don't have this stuff going on in their states. So why are their children not signing up? You know what I mean? That's, you know, because what you're basically trying to say is that before this drop in recruitment, the majority of the people that was going in the military were liberals. And it's not true. I served in the military. I'm still working for the military. Most of the people in the military come from rural white America, and they come to the military for a better way of life. And the truth of the matter is the recruitment is down is because the drumbeat on the right has been about the military not being the place to be. On top of the fact we just got out of 2 long-ass wars. And these guys also, these young people are seeing young people coming home with limbs missing, fingers missing. This is the same thing that happened after the Vietnam War. This is not new. So General Shisekki and Colin Powell and people like that, Swarkoff, these are the guys that were big generals in the 90s because they stayed around after the Vietnam War and helped rebuild the army. That's what happened after the Vietnam War. We drew down and we had problem with recruitment because of battlefield injuries, soldiers not being taken care of properly, et cetera, et cetera. You get war weary. This is not new. So what you just heard on Fox News is nothing but propaganda. That's what's happening right now is natural. But there's also something else going on that no one's talking about, not even the Democrats. There's also a corporatization of the defense because we have new weapons, because we can fight from afar. Well, you know, they're privatizing a lot more. They're trying to figure out ways to streamline commercial industries and contract a lot of the things that we do out, because a lot of things we do are now inside operation centers. So when we're talking about intel analysts, you're talking about IT people, cybersecurity guys, dudes that fly drones, dudes that repair those systems and everything that go into that. That's that you have not only just soldiers doing that, you have a lot of contractors doing that. So now they're just skewing it more towards that versus picking up actual soldiers who cost more. So there's a lot of different things happening at the same time that is affecting this, on top of the fact that we just don't have a lot of young people who want to sign up for the military, and that includes all the children in the red states.
Lou?
No, that was a good point. Man, he hit it right out the park. I wanted to say too, yeah, that's such a weak argument. Oh, they don't want to join the military because of woke stuff and pronouns. Are you serious? No, no. Everybody, for one, they have a terrible veterans of today. Absolutely are a huge deterrent to a lot of people from joining us. These people coming, like you said, they're coming back home 30, 34, 35, and they like, man, I ain't, look, man, look. They telling their little brothers, their little cousins, their little sisters, nieces, look, man, don't do it. Go to school, go to community college for 2 years, learn a trade. Do not waste your life doing certain things. Like if you're gonna go to the military, you need to go in as quick as possible, get you a GI Bill, do 36 months minimum. Do not, because I mean, because you're not, for one, they're not even really teaching you a lot of stuff. So a lot of people come. That's why a lot of people come out the military with lack of skills, because they're not, what they're doing is not necessarily, if they didn't get into a certain job in the military where they have the skill. Right, exactly, transferable skills, exactly. So now they're telling their people to do this. Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
No, he's disagreeing with you, Lou. He's disagreeing with you.
Okay. Oh, you good? Yeah. I was just
Luke, just to add to the skills point.
Add to it. Yeah, go ahead.
Just add to it. This is not just happening in the green students. This is also happening on the government side. They want more people with more certifications, higher skill sets, because technology has changed. How we run systems. Now, it's not just the weapon systems. It's how we run systems, period. How we run ticketing systems, how we do acquisitions. Everything is becoming more and more technical. So we need higher skilled people. We just can't allow anybody to run the stuff anymore. So what's happening right now in the government, and the DOD, is that they're trying to figure out ways to streamline more skilled people from the private sector, i.e. more contractors, to do other jobs that we don't need soldiers to do. So they're remixing things, but that's one aspect of what's happening. That's one aspect of what happened. We still need guys. We still need boots on the ground to do certain things, and that goes to the culture situation in America. Right now, we have a culture that is unpatriotic. All right, so I don't know how you just put that on, the Democrats. What the hell is going on in the red states?
No, I agree. I 100% agree. And I was
especially that's where most of your military bases are.
And that's where most of your militaries always came from. So if there's going to be a drop, you will look there first. Like, what's going on in those conservative homes? What are they being told? What's happening with them? So you're basically saying these conservative families are the ones giving into America ain't shit. I thought y'all was the red, white, and blue.
But this is the real problem. See, they created a lot of this. When you took a look at, let's go back to just something as January 6th. Look who was up there. It wasn't a whole lot of just old folks. It was a lot of young people, radicalized, thinking your government is not working for you. We got to tear stuff down, and got a president saying all this. These people have fed into going against their own country. That it's not working for them anymore, and so on and so forth. So been a lot of that rhetoric that has made people a lot more unpatriotic. A lot of people have kind of a lazy attitude towards the military at this stage, and
it's across the board. Yep, it's across the board too.
It definitely is. But let's look at who's ginning up a lot of this. These were supposed to be your most patriotic people, law and order and all that, and here they are, unlawful, unorderly. No order, and and saying the country's not working for them anymore, and all of this type of stuff. And you have all this negativity going on where people are not, we're going to naturally see, like you guys were saying before, somewhat of a dip in in the military just because there is peacetime, and a lot of these wars have been shown not to be as effective. They're that effective. Certainly,
Right.
as we start to take a look at Afghanistan, and all, we're in Afghanistan for 20 years. I mean, come on. So I mean, we
Mhm.
saw a lot of saw a lot of that, and the rhetoric coming from the right, coming especially for a lot of people coming out of those red states, they're they're showing themselves now to be rather unpatriotic. Many of them are. So so they are actually helping to bring the numbers down themselves.
Yeah.
That's what we're seeing.
Yeah.
And they don't, I guess they don't want to take ownership of that as well. But anyway, go ahead.
Now I was going to just add on
Yeah,
that.
let me get to this piece from See It.
I was going to add real quick, just so we just clear, just be across the board. So most of your military comes from your red states as far as recruitment. That's historically factual. And when you talk about the blue states, most of that comes from your cities. And the biggest, contributor to that is black people. That's historically as well. So but across the board, this whole mantra of banging against the military does not help. If you sit here talking about the military is woke and it's full of, trans and all that, and yes, there's some of those people in the military, but they are nowhere near the majority. There's no big number of trans people in the military. It's not. I work in the military. I don't see these people. I see them like very seldomly, once in a while. They're not running rampant around. We're not sitting around doing pronouns and stuff. It's just all that rhetoric he just spewed is garbage. I'm actually working with the active military here in Europe. It's bullshit. You know what I mean? So, but if you keep pumping that out, that rhetoric out, right? Why would the young boys who are immature and young, why would they sign up? And that's what Nagone was just trying to, to leg out. Why would they sign up for that if you keep pumping that out? That's coming from right-wing media.
That's right. That's right. That's exactly it.
It's been steady for the last, I don't know how many years they've been doing this nonsense.
Let me read this piece from CSIS. The military, police, and the rise of terrorism in the United States. There is a growing concern about the extent to which U.S. military and law enforcement personnel have perpetuated and been victims of domestic terrorism. In March 2021, the U.S. Department of Defense, DoD, sent a report to the House and Senate Armed Services committees, which concluded DoD is facing a threat from domestic extremists, DE, particularly those who espouse white supremacy or white nationalist ideologies. It continued that some domestic extremist networks, A, actively attempt to recruit military personnel into their group or cause, B, encourage their members to join the military, or C, join themselves for the purposes of acquiring combat and tactical experience. In 2020, the FBI alerted the DoD that it had opened 143 criminal investigations involving current or former service members, of which nearly half, 68, were related to domestic extremism. Most investigations apparently involved veterans, some of whom had unfavorable discharge records. The January 6, 2021 events at the U.S. Capitol raised additional concerns since one reservist, one National Guard member, and at least 31 veterans were charged with conspiracy or other crimes. In addition, at least 4 police officers and 3 former officers face federal charges for their involvement in storming the Capitol. In response to these developments, Secretary of Defense Lloyd Austin III pledged to intensify the DoD's efforts to combat extremism in the military, remarking, quote, "It concerns me to think that anyone wearing the uniform of a soldier or a sailor or an airman, Marine or Guardian or Coast Guardsman would espouse these sorts of beliefs, let alone act on them. But they do. Some of them still do." Secretary Austin also signed a memo directing commanding officers and supervisors to conduct a one-day stand-down to discuss extremism in the ranks with their personnel. In addition, the DoD launched an investigation in January 2021 to determine the extent to which the department and military have implemented policies and procedures that prohibit advocacy and participation related to white supremacy white supremacists, extremists, and criminal gang activity by active duty personnel. Numerous police agencies also conducted investigations into extremism within their departments. As Mayor Bill de Blasio of New York City remarked, quote, anyone who expresses racist views shouldn't be a police officer. Anyone who expresses white supremacist views shouldn't be a police officer. Anyone who encourages violence against our democratic institutions shouldn't be a police officer. While these steps are an important start, there has been little publicly available data about military or law enforcement involvement in domestic terrorism, as well as attacks against troops and police. In addition, some research is plagued by selection bias because it focuses on a single incident, such as the January 6th event at the US Capitol. Without more systematic data, it is hard to gauge the severity of the problem and to make useful recommendations. To help fill the gap, this analysis utilizes CSIS's data set of domestic terrorist plots and attacks since January 1st, 1994, which was updated the end of January 2021. The data indicate that U.S. military personnel have been involved in growing number of domestic terrorist plots and attacks. The percentage of attacks and plots committed by active duty and reserve personnel rose in 2020 to 6.4% of all attacks and plots, 7 out of 110 total, up from 1.5% in 2019, 1 of 65 total, and none in 2018. Active duty personnel perpetuated 4.5% of the attacks in 2020, 5 incidents, and reservists conducted 1.8%, 2 incidents. While these individuals represent a tiny percentage of all current active duty and reserve personnel, the increased number of incidents is still concerning. The data also indicate a rise in law enforcement involvement in attacks. The growth is notable since individuals with a military or law enforcement background have skills that extremists want, such as proficiency in firing weapons, building explosive devices, conducting surveillance and reconnaissance, training personnel, practicing operational security, performing other types of activities. The data should serve as a cautionary tale. While the numbers are relatively low, they are growing, and the military and law enforcement agencies need to take preventative action now. There are several other notable findings that from the data set. First, domestic extremists increasingly targeted the military, police, and other government agencies, putting security agencies in the crosshairs of domestic extremists. In 2020, government, military, and especially police personnel and facilities were the target of 38% of attacks. The most of any category. Second, there was a rise in the number of terrorist plots and attacks in 2020, despite a relatively low number of fatalities. This trend indicates that terrorism is a growing problem in the United States. There were more terrorist plots and attacks in 2020 than any year since the CIS data set started in 1994. Third, the motivations for terrorism have shifted dramatically over the past 2 decades, from religious extremists inspired by Al-Qaeda and the Islamic State after September 11, 2001, to white supremacists, anarchists, and others today. White supremacist, extremist, militia supporters, and other like-minded individuals were involved in 2/3 of the attacks and plots in 2020. Anarchists and anti-fascists and other like-minded individuals perpetuated roughly 23% of the plots and attacks in 2020, a notable increase from recent years. And Salafi jihadists were involved in a mere 5%, their lowest share of incidents since 2008. The rest of this brief is divided into 4 sections. Terrorism. This brief focuses on terrorism, which involves the deliberate use or the threat of violence by non-state actors in order to achieve political goals and create a broad psychological impact. Violence and the threat of violence are important components of terrorism. As Professor Bruce Hoffman of Georgetown University argues, terrorism is the deliberate creation and exploitation of fear through violence or the threat of violence in the pursuit of political change. Sounds like the manosphere. U.S. Code, which is the official compilation of general and permanent laws of the United States, defines domestic terrorism under 18 U.S. Code 2331 as violent acts or acts of dangerous to human life that occur primarily within U.S. territory. It organizes terrorism acts into three components. The act is intended to intimidate or coerce a civilian population. It aims to influence the policy of a government by intimidation or coercion, and it involves mass destruction, assassination, and kidnapping. Sounds like MAGA. In focusing on terrorism, this brief does not cover the broader categories of hate speech or hate crimes. There is some overlap between terrorism and hate crimes, since some hate crimes include the use or threat of violence. But hate crimes can also include nonviolent incidents such as graffiti and verbal abuse. Hate crimes and hate speech are obviously concerning and a threat to society, but this analysis concentrates only on terrorism and the use or the threat of violence to achieve political objectives. In addition, this analysis does not focus on protests, riots, looting, and broader civil disturbances, unless they meet the definition of terrorism. While these incidents are important to analyze, most are not terrorism. Some are not violent, while others lack a political motivation or the intention to create a broad psychological impact. Finally, while there is often a desire among government officials and academics to focus on terrorist groups and organizations, the terrorism landscape in the United States remains highly decentralized. Many are inspired by the concepts of leaderless resistance, which rejects a centralized hierarchical organization in favor of decentralized networks or individual activity. The decentralized nature of terrorism is particularly noteworthy regarding the use of violence, which CSIS data suggests is often planned and orchestrated by a single individual or small network. Let me move on to this next one here. Military and law enforcement perpetrators and targets. This section begins with a historic overview of military and law enforcement personnel involved in terrorism. It then examines more recent data about military and law enforcement personnel as both perpetuators and targets of terrorism. To be clear, this analysis does not focus on the broader question of extremism in the military, including its pervasiveness and causes, nor does it offer a systematic analysis of why these numbers have increased, though it does offer some hypotheses. While there are important issues, the data set focuses on terrorist incidents. This is a very long dossier. I'm not going to read the whole thing. I just wanted to highlight the fact that, military recruitment can also be traced to the fact that you have a lot of people who are coming in for a particular role, which is to destabilize or to get skills so they can destabilize the country itself. And so there's one person goes in to join the military, and then they come back out and transfer those skills back to the civilian side where they can organize their white supremacist buddies.
That is absolutely true.
That's what I was
about it. When you look at the arrest of the January 6 rioters, a huge number of them ex-military. It was the number one profession that was arrested, and you also had some law enforcement that was arrested too, that was up there protesting and trespassing. These are people who are trained, they know laws, they know regular order, and you got to ask yourself why they joined. What oath did they take? What was their oath really to? Janet Napolitano, when she was head of Homeland Security, when Barack Obama was in office, she went on Fox News and tried to talk about this. There's been a big serious problem of white nationalism in the military, and these guys getting kicked out or leaving and then getting arrested, doing stuff out after they leave the military. This has been a serious issue. The FBI has been talking about this for about 15 to 16 years, and then Trump came in office and he redirected all the policies in the DOJ. So this proliferated under his watch, even though it was already a problem before he got there, but it got worse under his watch. He unleashed them. There's another aspect, a wrinkle to this too. Even though police recruitment is not out the roof, but it has been getting younger. So you have younger white males rather join the police than join the military, even though there's more benefits to join the military. So you got to ask yourself why that is. So there's a lot of things that go into this topic, Mike. You know, this is a very complex issue. It's not complex, but it goes a lot of different directions. You know what I mean? And I don't think brothers are really looking at this for what
nuances.
Yeah, there's a lot of nuances to this, and I don't think brothers are looking at this for what it is, because the violence is real. The growth of militias is real. For militias to triple under Trump, that's alarming. That's alarming. Any rational male in any country that had a group of other males in the country arming themselves to the teeth and practicing war maneuvers would have their hairs would at least be standing on their neck. But when it comes to some of these brothers, man, I don't, you know what I mean? They're not dealing with the actual reality, what's going on out here. And this is not scaring tactics. This is what white folk are saying. This is what the white media is saying. This is what the white FBI is saying. You know what I mean? These are their numbers. These are not Negro numbers. Okay. So if you have that kind of growth in armed militia, which didn't exist in 1960, that's what I was alluding to, brother, in the chat room. You're right. We are in a different time.
Let me read this final piece here. White supremacists, extremist militia members, and other violent far-right extremists were responsible for 66% of domestic terrorist attacks and plots in 2020, roughly consistent with their share in other recent years. For example, on June 7th, Harry H. Rogers, a self-proclaimed leader of the Ku Klux Klan, intentionally drove his pickup truck into a crowd of Black Lives Matter demonstrators in Henrico, Virginia. One protester was injured, and Rogers received a 6-year prison sentence. In addition, anarchists, anti-fascists, and violent environmentalists and other violent far-left extremists conducted 23% of the terrorist attacks and plots in 2020, an increase from previous 3 years, in which violent far-left incidents comprised between 5 and 11% of all domestic terrorist attacks and plots. For example, on August 29th in Portland, Oregon, Michael Rinaldo, an Antifa extremist, followed 2 members of the far-right group Patriot Prayer and then shot and killed one of them, Aaron J. Danielson. Meanwhile, the portion of attacks and plots inspired by Salafi jihadist ideology fell to 5% in 2020. I want to go back over this Antifa right-wing engagement. That's a civil war. I don't consider that to be domestic terrorism, primarily because they're responding to something, right? You don't have anti-fascists if you don't have fascism to begin with.
Right. Exactly.
Right? You don't need anti-fascists. You don't need anti-fascists if you didn't have fascism to begin with. So instead of addressing the fascism, they just say it's left-wing extremists. But left-wing extremism is responding to something. What is it responding to? Right? And so I just find these things to be very interesting.
Let's be clear, Mike. There is a small faction of left-wing extremists right in the country. It exists, but it is completely eclipsed 20 times over by what's going on the right-wing side of things. And they have more guns on the right wing. They're the biggest threat. And this is what Republican appointed people at the FBI have been saying for years. And then Trump came in and he stopped them from targeting and surveilling these groups to surveilling the small groups of left wing and also Black activists who weren't even really that organized at the time until the Black Lives Movement happened, right? So he took resources, American resources, and went to a smaller problem or potential problem that, you know, these people weren't bombing enough, they weren't killing nothing, but all the violence and all the right-wing shootings and all the, the mass shootings that's coming from the right. No, we're not going to surveil that no more. And that's what happened under Trump. You know what I mean? So when you talk about bringing this man back into office on a wave of white nationalism, white Christianism, you can sit here and say, all right, this is my guy because he's going to stick it to these women. All right, fine. If that's what you want to ride on, buddy, you go ahead and do that. But I hope you tooled up. Because they were emboldened on him in his first administration. They're going to be more emboldened in the second one, especially when they think it's his last administration.
Yeah, man. I wanted to say about, yeah, I mean, the thing is, man, like we definitely in information warfare. Um, you know, when you talk about the like people talk about the border crisis, right? They don't even realize that the Title 42 that Trump put in during COVID is why that it basically he took the infrastructure away for these people to be processed seeking asylum. So now what's ended up happening is the system just got backed up, and now the current administration got to deal with it. I mean, but they don't even understand stuff like that, man. It's like, I'm with you, man. Like this is for you a black dude and say stuff like, oh man, I don't see race and I'm not scared and all that stuff, bro. It's like you already defeated, obviously. Like if you in Texas or something, your vote's probably been disenfranchised already. You probably been gerrymandered. You probably don't even have a. I mean, it is like we got to just talk to the people who doing it, man. Because that whole woke thing for the military recruitment to be low, that's like y'all said, there's way more nuance and complexity to what's going on, and versus somebody, versus this they got to worry about their pronouns. No, dude, like that's ridiculous. You didn't even say that. But anyway, y'all go ahead. Man.
Yeah. There's gaslighting. But let me play this clip from last night on the Coliseum. I want to address this because I think that it's worthy of addressing. Let me play this at 3 hours 42 minutes.
Thug and like come on.
It's not the fact that he's not quarterbacky, he's just too quarter blacky.
Ain't pretty.
They did a whole.
Yeah, that was just a sample.
Yeah, and they could. The old leftists couldn't stand Joe Biden when he was actually a senator. They couldn't stand him then.
Yeah, because people forget. He's a credit card dude. But
Yeah,
the closest things I don't listen to that. I don't listen to a lot of deep politics stuff. But yeah, I've caught clips of like the Young Turks shorts and stuff like that. That what was that Persian chick? Oh, she was talking that shit about Joe Biden.
Anna?
Well, keep in mind that the Young Turks are a
failed
what do you call it? Endorser. Well, they're an endorser of the Bernie Sanders socialist movement. So that's why they have an axe to grind against Biden. Biden is not a leftist like people think he is. He's actually a moderate conservative, and so within the party that does exist. It is something that exists. So let me finish playing this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They be getting mad. They be like, yo, this they team, he needs to step down and they're not even a fan of Kamala either. They say somebody else need to make headway because y'all about to leave this shit.
Yeah, the Young Turks are actually Bernie bros. So
okay.
Like
yeah.
Like for AB, what I found interesting about them dudes, well, like for all I know is like the main dude it seems to be is that Mike dude, and like he popped up a couple times on panels, and like he was having conversations with you. So it's like why
would AB or me?
With both of you.
Oh,
with you
yeah, he was on last week. They didn't come this week, but thing is, they left.
He was on Art's panel, one of Art's panels, and he was on AB's channel when you were there. Well, before you came up, but basically the point I'm trying to make is like he was able to actually come and have a conversation. So I don't understand why he felt.
Well, Mike is kind of different. Mike is definitely he's a black franchise dude, but you gotta remember art stuff is like considered a neutral ground, and politics is one of the topics to get talked about. So and Art and Mike is civilized. I mean, they all are, but some are more than others. So it's kind of like you don't start nothing, it ain't gonna be nothing type of stuff, unless he vehemently disagrees with some shit that's being said.
That's the point that I was trying to make. Like, I actually like the dude because, like, he actually came up and he stood in a square, whether he was right or wrong, but he stood in a square. But like, and he was like civilized, unlike Kung Lao. Like
I mean,
BGS,
yeah, if you want to hear,
we
because
go live.
BBS don't like talking domestic politics. So if you really want to hear about domestic politics, particularly the Democratic Party stuff, yeah, go listen to the Black Branch. Them and the Code Breakers is my favorite when I want to go deep into shit. You know, with
Yeah.
him and Paradox, but they don't always go live. When they go live, they go live. But I thought they would go live after the Iowa situation. But yeah, but
Well,
they
What are they gonna say? You know, BGS was right.
I mean, well, you know, they can find. I mean, paradox because you got South Carolina and yeah, they like nah. Don't, they, he said the old man is coming with the lightsaber.
Mhm.
well, like the point that I was trying to make is just like why make a standalone video when they know you're about to stream and they could have came up and like had a conversation with you.
Uh,
Like we don't talk about this
It's
stuff.
history. It's history.
don't
It,
worry
it,
about
in
Andre,
other
don't
words,
worry about it.
yeah, don't worry about it. In other words, they can make a stream and say get out what they want to say uninterrupted. That's why you make your own stream.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, and you should do that. Like honestly, you see how dusty I do my shit. I mean, when BGS does his stuff, he uses StreamYard and makes it look good.
All right, let me say something here, man. What AB Media did was we go to his community tab, and let me address this. I'm going to put all of this out here really quickly. Okay, let me zoom in on this. Okay, this was posted yesterday. At the Black Brain Trust, you think I'm hard on Joe? Listen to some real leftists. Okay, we've gone over this before, but I'm just reiterating what was said and how we got to this point. Listen to some real leftists. What does this really mean? I have no idea what a real leftist is in reference to the Black Brain Trust. Okay. What I define as left, I know. What you define as left, I don't know. So I'm trying to get some context as to what it is that you're referring to. What does it mean when you say, listen to some real leftists? What does that mean? Who are these real leftists?
People that's going at Joe Biden.
Oh,
That's how
right.
they look at it.
Which is fine if, okay, you get rid of Biden today or Monday morning. Who are you going to replace Biden and Kamala with? Who are you going to replace them with? RFK Jr.? Really? This guy? Who are you going to replace him with? I'm still waiting for these guys to come up with a alternative to Biden Harris ticket. Where's the alternative?
Well, you mean an alternative
Go
that
ahead,
they're going to
Energy.
work for? There is no alternative that they're going to work for. Like all this other stuff is, they think that the real left is anti-Biden. And that's just
Yeah.
where the actual understanding of their actual process kind of goes. It's just that, they don't understand the actual topic or situation. This is why they have to stay strongly invested in the actual relationship talk, because that's an inclusionary conversation that doesn't really require a whole lot of thought process in order for you to be a part of it. But all this other stuff requires thoughts, memory of history, accuracy of history, recall, picking a side. They're not with that. The only thing they care about is an already fixed system that they don't have to participate in. And it is your fault if you don't fix the system fast enough. They're just going to keep trolling you and keep throwing things at you until you fix everything while they don't pick a side. Dude, it's just that when we have to keep, addressing these type of concerns from, people who live in Indianapolis, when you know damn well you go 10 minutes outside of the city limits, it's conservativeville throughout the rest of the state. So when you choose to stay in that format and you know you ain't gonna get no left wing shit in the place where you actually live, you're gonna be living in a constant state of madness. And then you're not gonna vote for even more left people because they don't have those type of people there. You didn't take the Obamacare expansion. So it's just like The places where they actually want to live at, they actually can take care of them the way that they can live at, their personal economics don't put them in that position. So like most Black people, they choose to live in these areas where they don't have any power, and they can't really participate in the process to actually make any type of effect of anything. And that's an economics issue that can be fixed. But they just want to have something to complain about. They want to live under this overwhelming rule, and they don't want to participate. So I was just like, hey, man, leave them there. And these be the main people talking about politics, the main people who are not even trying to affect any type of change. They're super worried about what everybody else is doing and what everybody else is getting because they ain't doing nothing. So now you have to go through everything that you're doing so that way they can copy all your points and bring them up in another conversation. That's all I was here for. They just want to take all your points away from you. And
let me read this really quickly. Let me read this really quickly. This is from the White House. Fact sheet. The Biden-Harris administration advances equity and opportunity for Black Americans and communities across the country. We've been over this before. Let's go over it one more game. Over the past 2 years, President Biden has worked to advance racial equity and ensure the promise of America for Black Americans and all communities across the country, from increasing access to home ownership and rooting discrimination in the housing market to promoting entrepreneurship, from reducing child poverty to historic lows to expanding access to quality, affordable healthcare, from advancing voting rights and police accountability to ensuring equal access to good education. Economic opportunity for Black families and communities by signing into law the historic American Rescue Plan, Bipartisan Infrastructure Law and Inflation Reduction Act, and implementing robust regulatory reform. President Biden has laid the most equitable economic recovery on record, creating more than 12 million jobs since coming to office, and helping create new economic opportunities for African Americans, including Black-owned businesses, has made long overdue investments in Black communities. Okay. This is from the White House. This is not the Black Brain Trust. This isn't vote blue no matter who. No, this is coming from the White House. So let's go over this again. Lowering energy costs and creating economic opportunities through the Inflation Reduction Act. Okay. By signing the Inflation Reduction Act, President Biden is delivering on his promise to build an economy that works for working families, including Black families. Okay. Including Black families. That means Black men who have kids, Black men who are married. Okay. President Biden and congressional Democrats successfully fought to pass this historic legislation to help all Americans, including African Americans, who have been at the front line of climate change by lowering costs, advancing environmental justice, while building a cleaner future and growing the economy from the bottom up and the middle out by creating good-paying union jobs across the country. The IRA will also lower the deficit and ask for the ultra-wealthy and corporations to pay for their fair share. I just saw a news bulletin pop up a few minutes ago from state of Massachusetts that based on these policies, they were able to procure $200 million just for the transit system. Creating economic opportunities and good-paying jobs. The IRA spurs solar project development in environmental justice communities by providing a 20% bonus credit for solar projects on federally subsidized affordable housing projects and a 10% bonus credit for solar projects in low-income communities. It also creates a new clean energy and sustainability accelerator that will exceed state and local clean energy financing institutions, support the deployment of distribution of zero-emission technologies like heat pumps and community solar and EV charging, while prioritizing over 50% of its investments in disadvantaged communities. The IRA expands clean energy tax credits for wind, solar, nuclear, clean hydrogen, and clean fuels and carbon capture, including a bonus credit for businesses that pay workers a prevailing wage and higher using registered apprenticeship programs, so that the clean energy we use creates good paying jobs. We talked about this in the past, that This is a wide open area for African Americans to get involved in. Providing relief to farmers. We've talked about this with the Black farmers. $5.3 billion that will provide relief to 10,000 farmers. Of that money, $3.1 billion will help distressed borrowers pay off their farm debts. An additional $2.2 billion will go to farmers who have suffered discrimination by USDA farm programs. That means that Black men who farm, who are the majority of Black farmers, will benefit from that $2.2 billion package, making critical investments in Black families and communities in the American Rescue Plan. When President Biden signed the American Rescue Plan, ARP, into law, it provided a lifeline to millions of families who were struggling from economic fallout of the pandemic, which happened under the Trump administration. Historic expansion of the child tax credit, cutting child poverty to record lows for Black children. Okay. Supporting child care providers and reducing child care costs for Black families. Black families are nearly 2 times more likely than white parents to have to quit, turn down, or make a major change in their job due to child care disruptions. Okay. The ARP provided a $39 billion lifeline to help child care providers stay open and compensate early childhood educators. And they provide safe and healthy environments for children and help parents work. We know that the Black Brain Trust has talked about Montessori schools in Black communities. We've talked about this quite a few times. Let's talk about this some more. 1 in 5 whom are Black, serving as many as 9.5 million children and their families. Most states, providers, and 98% of the persistent poverty counties received aid, and more than half of the providers receiving funds were operating in the most racially diverse counties in the country. Okay. American Rescue Plan tripled the EITC for 17 million workers without dependent children. Helping Black Americans stay in their homes. President Biden's American Rescue Plan has helped Americans, including Black Americans, stay in their homes by providing emergency rental assistance. Over 8 million households were served by emergency rental assistance. We know that this is true. We've seen the numbers already. Extending a lifeline to struggling small businesses. Again, investing in equitable workforce training. We talked about this, vocational, upskilling, AI, things of that nature. $121 million in grants to expand, diversify, and improve access to registered apprenticeships for underserved communities. The agency is also awarding $95 million to help people in marginalized and underrepresented populations overcome barriers to career and technical education programs they need to connect with their quality jobs. Sounds like a lot of Black men are going to benefit greatly from this. You know, a lot of those Black men who need to get their CDLs. Remember that?
Yeah, Mike, but it's not called the Black Manosphere Act
Black
of whatever year there was. That's why it ain't no credit being given for it. Because one, they complain so that way you can educate them. And then once you do educate them, because this has been going over multiple times, they pretend like it didn't happen. And then they turn around and say, well, we need something specifically with a name on it. I'm like, bro, at the end of the day, your package has to be wrapped in with other stuff. Even though it does help, it has to help a large swath of people while you get a little bit of help out of it. And by attaching your actual issues to each one of these bills with actual cooperation is exactly how the process works. But when you have people and the information resistant people who is hell-bent on not understanding the process, run around in circles, and need to be updated and educated on everything. And then when you educate them on it, they still walk away from the conversation with less information than before you actually started. It's just a lost cause at that point. I mean, they're just here complaining just to be complaining. There are things that are being done. While these things are being done by the Biden administration, they never go up to the Republican Congress and ask them what they are doing, even though they claim that they're going to be voting for them. And they never go to any type of conservative president and actually request that they do anything outside of a photo op. It's always the left who have to do all of these things and get no credit for it. But these other people could do absolutely nothing, and they claim that they're going to be over there trying to support them, man. At some point, we got to cut the cord, man.
Yeah. Protecting Black Americans' access to housing by combating housing discrimination. We know this is true. Okay. new actions to protect renters and promote rental affordability, leveraging federal procurement to narrow the racial wealth gap for Black entrepreneurs and families. We know that Black founders get less than 2% of venture capital. And so now you're starting to see this added into the plan. Okay. It all takes place this year. Advancing equitable employment outcomes and boosting wages for Black federal workers. You know, a lot of Black people work for the government. On June 25th, 2021, President Biden signed an executive order. Signed an executive order on advancing diversity, equity, inclusion, and and accessibility in the federal workforce. This executive order launched a whole of government initiative to cultivate a federal workforce that draws from the full diversity of the nation and that advances equitable employment opportunities for workers from underserved communities. In September 2022, the administration established a Chief Diversity Officer Executive Council to help implement and sustain efforts to advance DEIA across the federal workforce. Further, the president has taken a series of executive actions leading to a $15 minimum wage for employees of federal contractors and federal employees. These actions impacted more than 370,000 workers in 2022 alone, including Black workers who disproportionately make up this population, helping to address longstanding wage disparities. Okay. Reversing decades of disinvestment through the bipartisan infrastructure law. Let me just read this really quickly. The lack of investment has fallen most heavily on Black communities and other underserved communities. The bipartisan infrastructure law will replace lead pipes, increase access to training and good quality jobs, expand affordable high-speed internet, reliable public transit, and clean drinking water. Remember, Jackson, Mississippi didn't have that clean drinking water because a conservative governor decided to block it. Remember that?
And these are the type of things that are given to like the local politicians to have money to do it rather than get it from the actual state government itself. That's why you have a local representative from the United States of Representatives, and you have a senator that can actually get this stuff done rather than just giving things to the state, which is never going to quote unquote trickle down to the actual local people. They have been correcting things in the Delta when it comes to that, and historic, purposeful flooding of Black areas so that way their real estate would never go up, but the white side of town never get any flooding. They're addressing those issues now. 2024, they're addressing those issues now when they've been a historical thing throughout the time. So the fact that nothing's happening, man, that's not true.
Yeah, let me read this last piece here. And then I got some other pieces I'm going to cover really quickly because, we get accused of a lot of things, and I want to make sure that we're on the record. We're putting all this on the record. During the 20th century, federally funded infrastructure projects too often segregated and harmed low-income communities, especially predominantly Black neighborhoods. Construction of the federal highway system in particular cut off once thriving Black communities from resources and opportunities. The bipartisan infrastructure law launched a new Reconnecting Communities program, which will invest $1 billion to help reconnect communities that were previously cut off from economic opportunities by transportation infrastructure. In addition, the Inflation Reduction Act includes $3 billion for the Neighborhood Access and Equity Grant Program to help advance transportation projects in disadvantaged or underserved communities. Over the past year, DOT has awarded grants to multiple projects to reconnect communities, including an interstate capping project in Atlanta, a greenway project in St. Louis, and the I-375 Detroit Community Reconnection Project. The bipartisan infrastructure law permanently authorized the Minority Business Development Agency for the first time since its inception and elevated the agency head to the position of undersecretary, granting the agency expanded power to support Black and other minority-owned businesses. Don Cravens, former executive vice president and chief operating officer of the National Urban League, was unanimously confirmed by the Senate this August to serve in his post. Okay. Another Black man put into a leadership position under Biden. That's 24 so far. EPA announced in 2022 that it has already allocated $2.9 billion in infrastructure for the bipartisan infrastructure law for funding for lead service line replacement. The first allocation of $15 billion of over 5 years dedicated to lead service line replacement. Okay. Assisting Black landowners in resolving title issues. An estimated 60% of Black landowners, Black-owned land in the South is heirs property, property that passes through the inheritance without a will, or in that, as a result, has historically rendered owners ineligible for U.S. Department of Agriculture programs, including leading in July 2021. Lending. In July 2021, the USDA rolled out the heirs property relending program, which primarily aids underserved communities, including Black Americans. The new program provides funds to assist heirs in resolving ownership and succession issues on farmland with multiple owners. Okay.
Pretty
we
much
keep
modern
going
day
on and on
redlining.
with this. Yeah.
Modern day redlining.
Well, yeah, I have another. I have three other. Yeah, I have three other pieces that I want to bring up. Okay.
Hey, Mike, I
Share
got
my
to hop
screen real
off.
quick.
Hey, Mike.
Oh,
Jason,
thanks for joining us, Jay Sean.
Yeah, I got to hop off, man. Thanks for having me up here, man. Good to see you, MOT.
All right, cool. All right, man.
Can I say something real quick before I go?
Yes, sir.
Just to my brother in the chat room. Hey, look, man,
yes, sir.
Be careful. Don't set yourself up. You don't represent all Black Republicans, all right? You know, you might have legitimate reasons or your reasons for being a Black Republican, but the rest of your Black Republican brethren up in the YouTube space, they talk crazy. And we've had debates with them. We ran into them.
Yep.
We know they don't know nothing, and we know how they talk. So don't speak for them neither. You know what I mean? So just be careful. Don't set yourself up, man, with this commodity you think you have with these brothers. A lot of these brothers are ill. So I wish you guys the best. I hope brothers really take the information in tonight and listen to what Mike V and MOT and the Goins laying out.
Yeah, and for the guy who has that sort of problem with those people, then that's a fight that you got to fight, because they delegitimizing your conservative things, so that way you're not being able to be taken seriously anywhere. And that's not a fight that we can fight. We can't fight that fight. If you're not part of that group, then you have to go on offense against those guys. They drop plenty of links and all that kind of stuff. You got to be over there with them and fight them directly. We can't fight that battle for you. So.
Hey, have a good one, Jay Sean. All right, this one is from the DOD. Okay, the Department invests $27 million in historically Black colleges and universities for scientific research in critical technology areas. Okay, this is happening under the Biden administration. Okay, let me move on to the next one. This is from the EPA. EPA establishes an internal council to identify opportunities for greater partnership with historically Black colleges and universities. Okay. As part of a larger agency strategy, EPA's HBCUs Council will review the agency's recruitment resources, research, and community engagement efforts, and provide recommendations to strengthen support of schools and students. Okay. This is all happening under Biden. This is not Mike V. This is not conjecture. This is all happening. It's not like we're just making this up. Okay. Let me share this one again. Okay. This is from the EPA, or Department of Energy, sorry. DOE awards $6.3 million to Black owners of solar services, BOSS, to advance equity in clean energy businesses and workforce development. The U.S. Department of Energy's DOE Office of Economic Impact and Diversity today awarded a grant totaling approximately $6.3 million to Black owners of solar services, BOSS. The cooperative agreement establishes a regional effort to coordinate and train minority-owned businesses on how to apply for DOE funding and access to DOE programs, benefits, and services and opportunities. BOSS is the largest community of experienced African-American energy professionals working in the solar photovoltaic space. The partnership will make a monumental contribution to the public and more specifically minority-owned businesses in the energy sector by reducing barriers to access all areas of the federal government. It will help it will also help foster a collaborative environment to connect entrepreneurs, students, and workers in the clean energy space. $6.3 million. Okay. Let's look at the next one. All right, this is from NASA. NASA awards millions to historically Black colleges and universities. NASA is awarding $11.7 million to 8 historical Black colleges and universities through the new data science equity, access, and priority in research education opportunity. These awards will enable HBCU students and faculty to conduct innovative data science research that contributes to NASA missions. Okay. This is straight from the Biden administration. Okay, I got one more for you before we even end this. All right, let me share my screen with you. This is the last one before we go. This is from Inside Higher Ed. Some historically Black colleges and universities experience record research funding this fiscal year. It's a hopeful sign to a group of HBCUs seeking R1 status. Leaders of historically Black colleges and universities have been working to achieve our Research 1 status in recent years. The Carnegie Foundation classification reserved for doctoral universities that demonstrate a certain level of research prowess. No HBCU currently holds such a classification, but administrators at some colleges say the designation feels increasingly attainable after years of striving and strategizing on a record year of securing research dollars. Howard University, for example, raised a record of $122 million in grants and contracts this fiscal year, outpacing its goal to reach $100 million by 2024, this year. Howard officials say the institution is the first HBCU to reach that amount after attaining $66 million in 2020 and $91.3 million in research grants and contracts last year, breaking a decade-long streak of bringing in less than $60 million annually. All of this is happening under Biden administration, okay? All of this. So when you say, oh, you know, the Black brain trust, butt hurt, vote blue no matter who, all of this is happening under the Biden administration. So who are you talking about? And what are we talking about here? Real leftists. Who are the real leftists? What does that mean? Nagon?
The real leftists, I don't know who he's talking about. I have to be very frank. I don't know. These guys make these statements and they don't, qualify them really or analyze it in any way. So I have no idea what they're talking about. So they just talking. Mike, I don't know. I don't know who the real left is that they're saying. Mike, I don't know.
Renaissance man?
Hey, what's up, Mike? What's up, Nico? Nah, I'm just coming up to speed, but I got the general gist of it. Yeah, I'm not sure who he's referring to. I mean, the only people that I've heard that's on the left that I've heard criticize Biden consistently is like the Breonna Joy Grays of the world, who admit they're like accelerationists. So she's pretty much like, hey, if I pretty much, she doesn't basically believe in incremental change. She gets a lot of pushback from a lot of people in BreadTube, who basically say, hey, they never thought Biden was going to govern as far to the left as he had. There's still things that, her main hang up is like student loans, but when they go to talk about like the National Labor Relations Board and his policy there, or, they talk about things like the child tax credit or the infrastructure bill, Green New Deal, or at least the compromise that was on that. Granted, a lot of people were upset that they felt that some of the promises of the Green New Deal type of legislation that was given away to basically pass a budget with Democrats, as well as she goes, I mean, rightly or wrongly so. She says, Biden and them basically negotiated against themselves when it came to the budget deal as well, because they had a pause on student loans, which you could argue that could have been another way to, to kind of at least keep your word, is to continually put them on pause. So that was part of the response to it. But they just canceled another round of student debt, so they're looking for ways, every way possible, with at least through executive order. This really boils down to there's not enough people in the Senate to get a bill passed that would actually wipe it out, because that's where the court said that he basically didn't have the authority.
Now, let me share my screen really quickly. Man, let me share my screen really quickly. Let me know you can see my screen. These are the 17 points of the agenda from newblackmasculinities.com or .wordpress or whatever it is. Okay. Number 1, family court reform. Number 2, education. Number 3, affirmative action for Black men. Well, we know that's out the window thanks to a Supreme Court. Huh? We know that's out the window. You can take number 3 off the list. Number 4, targeted homeless programs. Well, the Biden administration has already addressed this. Number 5, targeted unemployment programs. Well, we know the Biden administration has already addressed this. Number 6, criminal law reform in law enforcement. We know that there are state-to-state efforts already happening right now. That's nothing new. We saw that in Philly, New York. Eric Adams was a top cop himself. That's nothing new. Intimate partner violence. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know anything about that. Number 8, health. Targeted treatment and recognition for heart disease. Well, the Biden administration has already done this in their in their plan we just read. Okay. Number 9, targeted small business support. The Biden administration has already achieved this. Social Security and life insurance, family support. Well, we know who's trying to get rid of Social Security right now. Seems like the Republicans are trying to get rid of that. Paternity leave. Most organizations already have paternity leave. I'm not sure why that is on the list. Reverse voter disenfranchisement. Well, there's only one party right now. Go ahead.
Well, I was gonna say on the paternity leave, the ironic thing is, it is the left who's saying that it should be basically mandated in the country for all services sectors. Because right now, some have maternity leave, some also have it for fathers, but there's nothing that guarantees it for all people. And we're one of the only developed nations in the world that doesn't have that guarantee. So, but that's something that like Bernie Sanders, people of the left have been pushing for. Not the right.
Yep. Yeah. Black male specific reparations for the transatlantic slave trade through 21st century. Black male specific.
I just don't get that. Like to me, like if you're talking about something that's going to be as hard to pass as reparations, common sense would say, the more people you have, thus like making it a gender thing, just doesn't sound like the best. Like subdividing a group that's already a minority in America doesn't sound like the best political strategy for getting something done. That doesn't make sense to me.
For that specifically,
it's like cutting a penny in half.
I think that's an excellent example. But when we look at that who's gonna get that done? Is that going to get done on people talking about this left or the right, or where are you going to get that done? Where would something like this?
Rand Paul filibustered.
Go ahead, Mike. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say that Rand Paul filibustered the anti-lynching bill. Okay,
he did.
You really think anybody in that party? And you had Mitch McConnell and John Kennedy come out and say they're against reparations. Okay, these are some of the strongest people within the party itself. And if it doesn't get past them, it doesn't get past at all. So what are we talking about here? United Nations, we charge the U.S. with genocide of the Black male. That's not a domestic policy thing. That's you going to the United Nations. Title VII reform, data disaggregation, Black men's right to self-defense. How come the NRA isn't aligned with this agenda? Where were they at for Philando Castile? Where were they at for Ahmaud Arbery? What I'm seeing here is just now is the Black Manosphere's wish list of public policy that either A, has already been cultivated through the Congressional Black Caucus, B, has already been enacted as we speak right now through the Biden-Harris administration, or C, is unrealistic and will never take place in this current climate. I don't know. You know, guys are holding on to this and throwing it in our face saying, well, we have a 17-point agenda. Well, where are you going to get this shopped at?
Yeah. And you're certainly not going to
Which
get
elected
that done.
official? Yeah, which elected official? Yeah, go ahead.
No, you're not going to get that. You're certainly not going to get that done on the right. That's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. They don't even support reparations. They don't support you for reparations. They've passed nothing that has been in favor of Black people, let alone Black men in particular, at all. Who are they talking to on the right? Who are you talking to on the right? Who's talking about, you know, bringing some of this through?
Mm-hmm.
You know, Trump had his 10-point, you know, plan for Black people. Am I right? He had a 10-point plan. Did he not have a 10-point plan? What happened with that?
No, he had a platinum plan that turned into aluminum foil.
Yeah, exactly. What happened with that?
A 3-page platinum plan, including the cover page.
Yeah.
Yeah. And use big font too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The biggest font they can find.
Yeah. Contrast that to a 50-page lift every voice and sing plan.
Yeah. I mean, we're just bringing up the facts here. Vote blue, no matter who, and who do we ever say you have to vote blue? We've never said you have to vote that. What we're doing is bringing up what are the facts here. Where are you going? Where are you going with some of this? This is the question. They don't have no answers for that side. They have no answers, but then they say us vote blue, no matter who. None of that. None of what they're saying makes any sense. When you look at this, anyway, go ahead.
Well, I was just gonna say, like, it doesn't. That's sort of become like sort of a stigma, and I'm like, I mean, the right essentially does the same thing. I mean, I don't, you know, outside of when Trump became president, you know, I never heard of people saying that, you know, they were somehow going to go vote for Democrats. Like, they pretty much voted for Republicans. I mean, a party is there for a platform. I mean, it's kind of common sense in the sense of if you have core issues that you're or core beliefs on how you believe the country should be ran, even if you don't get your candidate, where we are right now politically, like, it's more than likely that whatever ideas you have that you want passed, even if your candidate in your respective party doesn't win, the party is going to be closer to your ideal than the other party is. Like, this is not 30, 40 years ago where you had some liberal Republicans, hanging out there, and, some very extremely conservative Democrats. The parties have pretty much shifted. So, this idea of, shaming people for what I'd call like harm reduction, it doesn't make much strategic sense. Like, if I want police reform, I can go vote for Democrats who may be able to get police reform, but may not be able to get qualified immunity, or I can go vote for Republicans who are like, back to blue. Like, it doesn't add up.
Yeah. Yeah. And here's the last piece, the Commission on the Social Status of Black Men and Boys. Okay. Actually led by a Black woman. So this idea that, Black women aren't looking out for Black men's interests, well, that just blows up your whole entire argument right there. Okay. Now, somebody said on the panel last night that Marco Rubio was a part of this. I watched all of the hearings since this has started, and Marco Rubio hasn't joined any of them. Okay, he's always absent. So this idea that, Marco Rubio is involved in this, no, the Republicans are not involved in this at all. He was the only Republican to sign off on it because they're both in the same state. That's the only reason that this was ever done. But he's the only one to sign on to this, but you haven't heard from him at all. I watch all of them, and he's never on there. So, and you haven't heard anything from Marco Rubio in the past year. There's nothing that this guy has been notable for within the party at all. You know, the party is pretty much MAGA at this point. And so I want to close out that vote blue no matter who. That's not us. We're not telling you anything about who to vote for. We're telling you what the facts are. Come with your facts that say that your 17-point agenda will be passed by anybody other than vote blue no matter who. Show me an elected official right now in Washington, D.C. that can get that done. We'd love to see it. Any other thoughts?
No.
Thanks, Mike, for letting us up. Thank you.
Yep. Yeah. No. I think this covers it. So.
All right. Thank you all for joining us. Please hit the like button on the way out. Share the video.